Professor Khandal mentioned about Prime Minister Modi talking about the Jan Dhan Yojana, which certainly would certainly go in the Guinness Book of Records, probably because no country has this kind of a financial inclusion population. I was challenged that in just from a 15th August drive, it just got culminated on the Republic Day, and over 12 crore bank accounts were opened using the existing machinery of the country. So that says a lot about leadership, that says a lot about commitment, and that says all about, as Professor Khandal said, that there is no problem as such. Start thinking of solutions and you will really find fantastic solutions, and you will really make the difference in just a short while ago. On a similar note, the Prime Minister has been talking about a very ambitious program, a very ambitious project, Make in India. Make in India. He has been galvanizing the entire global leaders to come and invest in India and make in India. Now, the vision behind that great leader will be really unfolded in times to come. Lot many action will really come on the time. That's a top-down approach what the government of India is really doing. But as the higher education fraternity, what we can do, how we can contribute to this Ram Setu which is being built up, or the larger Yagna, we also have our own small contributions to make, because it is the human manpower of this grand old civilization which is really going to create a majestic civilization out of it. So our next deliberation, for which we have representatives from all the three services, we have the unique privilege to have people from the Indian Army, from Indian Air Force and Indian Navy to really give their perspectives as to how creating a defense industrial base in this country, how this Make in India is so very vital and so very important for them. How the role of the higher education system can be extended to really contribute to this majestic national exercise. I would like to invite Rear Admiral Sandeep Nathani from the Indian Navy to please come on the dais for this wonderful session, which we hope will really open up a lot of talking points and deliberation points for our higher education fraternity. We have got Colonel Sandeep Tyagi from the Indian Army to participate in this wonderful session. We also have with us Air Commodore VP Singh from the Indian Air Force. Air Commodore VP Singh from the Indian Air Force to participate in this session. We also have with us Colonel Naresh Bana, who is an ex-army personnel but engineer, and who brought the Vaishno Devi rail train, the Pir Panjal tunnels and all, who took heavy machinery from the hills of Srinagar and Kashmir over there to also join in. And we also have with us who fly planes and who manages the HR resources of the 125 airports across the country, Mr. Divakar Goyal, who is the General Manager HR with the Airports Authority of India, to please join in. So, sir. I'm sorry, Dr. Divakar Goyal, sir, is a great academician and he's really working on fantastic HR management practices and all. The central question which I would like to pose to the panel, eminent panel which we have this evening with us on this session, making the Make in India to happen, extending the role of higher education system and the role of technology in doing the same. We have been carrying the same question, we have been posing the same to a similar set of August panels across Chandigarh, Chennai, Pune, and now at Delhi. And we have been really getting very, very encouraging responses. The armed forces are really excited about the possibilities of Indian research institutions, Indian higher academia to really contribute to their bouquet of huge amount of problems and challenges which they have got with them. So I would request Honorable Rear Admiral Sandeep Nathani to give up his opening remarks on the entire topic, and we will take things further from here.
Good evening everyone, I'm Admiral Nathani. I'm Assistant Chief of Material Modernization in Naval Headquarters. I'm an alumni of the National Defence Academy, and I've also done MTech from IIT Delhi. Just putting things in perspective. First of all, I'm not sure what I have come here for, because when Kanur gave his speech, he said the customer has changed. Earlier the customer was the student, now it is the employer. Employer means the industry. And for us, we are the customer of the industry. So we are actually far away. But anyway, I'll just put in my thoughts, whatever we have. and how the Indian Navy is going ahead with Make in India, and how the Indian Navy is associated with academic institutions. First of all, Indian Navy has gone ahead with indigenization. I think 4 decades back it started this endeavor, and we have changed from a buyer's navy to a builder's navy. Most of our ships now are built in India. Right now, you'll be glad to know that we have 41 ships in order, and all of them are being produced in India. So that has been our thrust area, and we are progressing with it. One more thing I want to just bring it out, that whenever we send a ship abroad, it's, for example, Virat, it is 2 acres of sovereign Indian territory anywhere in the high seas. And when it goes abroad, it shows the industrial and scientific might of the country. Because we have a kitchen, we have ammunition, we have weapons, sensors, we have air conditioners. So whenever foreign or people from abroad visit our ships, they see what is our progress, and that is what we want to flaunt the progress of the country. The latest ship, INS Kolkata, if any of you would, have seen it or would like to see it, it is the latest technologies in all domains is there. When we talk of technology on board a ship, we divide it into 3 parts. We divide it into float, move, and fight. Float technologies generally are those which make the ship float, and also the upper machinery, that is the steels. You'll be glad to know that all the steel is now indigenized in India, and that is thanks to the DRDO and SAIL. So now we have licked that problem, and we are able to get the steel for our ships and also soon for the submarines. Similarly, long lasting paint, then we have hangar doors, crane, all that is almost done. But we always have to look at the bottom of the ship and see that there are no cracks, and that journey interval is for about 5 years when the ship has to dock. We want the interval to be infinite. So if there is research in metallurgy or in paints which can have a ship continue without doing any hull maintenance, that research can be done by the academics. Second one is move. Move means the propulsion. The propulsion is the engines and also all engineering equipment, that is the air conditioners, the HP air compressors, even the PGD, the power generation equipment. For example, just for knowledge, Virat has 9 megawatt generator, so it can give lighting supply to whole of Bombay. Vikramaditya has 18 megawatt of power. So obviously, and the next one which is coming will be even higher. So there's a lot of power in it, and that all is indigenized as of now. PGDs has been indigenized, but still we have a lot of scope in the sense that gas turbines are not made in India. Then diesel engines for propulsion we still don't have. So there are a lot of things which we can still do research and then indigenize, make in India. Water jet propulsions of some of the ships which are made again are imported. Right now we still have some import content in the move category. And the last is the fight. Fight category, generally we have sensors and weapons, and that is the one category where we have maximum imports. Though a lot of progress has been done by L&T, by DRDO, and now many radars, sonars are now indigenized. You must have heard of Professor Arogya Swami Balraj. He is also from National Defence Academy, IIT Delhi. He is won the Marconi Prize. He is a pioneer in the technology of MIMO, that is a 4G. And he has done immense contribution to the Navy in sonar development. We have one DRDO lab, NPUL, and the Indian sonars are the best in Indian waters. We can import sonars from abroad, but they don't work in Indian waters. And that is a success story which should be replicated in other fields also. As far as weapons are concerned, we're getting surface-to-air missiles, and the industry is helping us. We have torpedoes, but this is one technology which we need a lot of support from the academics and from the industry. In the end, later on, I'll tell you that I'll tell you now what I expect the academics to do, because what is happening is a lot of technology abroad which is not in India. One is cryptography. So what we have done is, in the Navy, we have one research organization called VESI, and it is a specialist in electronics and IT, and we have direct interaction with IIT Kharagpur, where we have Professor Moona, who is now in CDAC, Professor Agarwal. Then we also have Indian Statistical Institute, Professor Bimal Roy, and we are tying up directly because that crypto has to be done by us ourselves, because those are secret codes which we cannot take it from a foreign country. And we are doing a lot of progress in that. And here is where academic institutions are helping us out. Similarly, for underwater electronics, there's Professor Behel in IIT Delhi, and he's done a lot of contribution. And with him, with NSTL, another lab of DRDO and NPL, we made a lot of progress in underwater electronics. There are many such stories where we have direct interaction with the academic institutions, and we have got a lot of inputs and positive results. I can go on and on because there are a lot of fields. I think I'll stop now. And
Thanks a lot, sir, for such an insightful opening. I think it has really set the tone of the this session. I would now like to move on to Colonel Bana, who has been also interfacing with a lot of academic institutions as to what disconnect he sees. He been serving the armed forces himself and also interfacing with a lot of academic institutions himself. What disconnect or he sees that these challenges, these national challenges, what stops our Indian academic institutions of all hues to take it on?
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you, Raghav. It's always a honor to accept your invitation and be among the top academicians and feel intellectual myself. So, and having listened to the great comments of Professor Kandare today, I really am delighted, and I echo what he said, because when these some of the business schools, they invite me as an industry expert for project management. I'm a student of that, and my opening slides are that, gentlemen, let's take our project management back and let's recollect some of the great projects of this country. And then I go on to ask that, could you recollect the chief engineer of Taj Mahal? Which IIT did he go to?
Give a big hand to him. Give a big hand.
So our project management was from Chanakya's time or even before.
And who developed Guar? No degree with ICAR
Yes.
or any USA Institute, but they developed a variety called Guar.
Guar.
Nobody in the world, any country.
Yes,
produced it.
shale gas is.
Whose name was Go Ahar, only meant for guy.
Yes.
Cows ke liye Ahar, and developed in such a manner without any
So great, sir. Great to have, I would say, leaders like him, and country is certainly in the safe hands. Now, so my concern was when he invited me that yes, I need to interact and share my thoughts on this. Basically, what I see, there is an opportunity for the entire engineering community to develop entrepreneurship, to make the higher education, the output of higher education, entrepreneurship ready. And that capacity, certainly there is a need to add to. India is employing close to 40% of Indian workforce in MSME sector, and 45% of India's manufacturing output is through small and medium enterprise. But it's only adding to 17% of the GDP, whereas in Japan it is 70% through the small and medium enterprise. So who are these people who could take up these small and medium enterprise? It could be the fresh graduates to people who have had enough of service or employment of somebody who want to become employer themselves. But here in our country, as we see, there are various issues. But before I come to that, we all appreciate that for any enterprise to start, you need a business plan, you need finance, you need approvals, you need survival infrastructure in terms of electricity, water, accommodation, broadband connectivity. You need security and safety infrastructure, district administration and police. You need to have taxation and legal infrastructure. Now, all of you can appreciate that the internship or the on-the-job training of higher education or the engineering graduates is not really addressing all these issues. So there is a deficiency to make this person entrepreneurship ready. And due to lack of awareness, many budding entrepreneurs are forced to take up jobs. That is an avoidable situation. They may become good employees, but you see, as a nation, we have lost out on some very good employers. There could be many Googles and Facebooks coming up from this very country. The another thing which is in a lighter way is the moment somebody declares that he wants to become an entrepreneur, here we have an ecosystem of people who starts looking at him that what he has, Sadaki. So, as I look at it, as far as this opportunity is concerned, we need to have a concept of total entrepreneurship development. We can draw the analogy from 19th century thinker Karl von Clausewitz, who brought in the concept of total war, that the entire nation goes to war. It's not only the person fighting on the trenches. So here the solution, or the people who still remain, in my view, really less concerned or less involved, whereas they are equally big stakeholders, are the administration, the other ecosystem which I have mentioned, the survival infrastructure, the security safety infrastructure, taxation and legal infrastructure. What to talk about the budding entrepreneur? I have seen people who have retired from senior positions in the government really scared or not knowing what the financial of a project could be or a enterprise could be. So making him aware of how a government functions, possibly it could start with the district collector. The internship should start from those offices. People should not be scared of going to a government office, to a police department office, to a legal or a court to meet a lawyer or getting an affidavit made. Most of the time, it is the parents who are doing these small things. What to talk about when they take up their enterprise? And if you go in detail, you would see, in fact, there is a Harvard study on this, that out of the top 100 billionaires, more than 65% are from business castes. I'm not being racist, I'm not pointing out anything, I'm just trying to say that this capacity of managing finance, managing the financial ecosystem prevails in those households. So there is a need to build up the capacity of budding entrepreneurs on this account. And that is where the banks, district administration, the courts, the taxation and legal advisory systems, the corporate affair people, they can play a significant role. And that is where I feel we need to take initiative without further delay. There should be dedicated time and endeavor to meet any government official in a week once or twice, where somebody who is a budding entrepreneur, he could be of any age, could just walk in and get their doubts cleared. Yes, things are available on Google and online, but the local issue, local authority is the highest authority. After all, the work has to be done there. In fact, I would go on to say that it should be made a KRA for all the district collectors and those stakeholders who are considered significant influencers in that domain. With that, I end my views. If there are any questions.
Thanks a lot, sir, for these insightful
I have one question.
Sir, please. Sir, all of us are service holders. We have no risk of loss. But in business, when an entrepreneur faces loss, then he is demoralized and he is spoiled. His finance, his whole family is spoiled when he suffers a loss. So how will you advise him for risk management? How would you manage the risk of loss?
If I may answer this, as far as business risk is concerned, business risk management starts from the concept of that business, the business plan. In business, when you make a business plan, you look at various, after all, why are you into business? You are trying to get some return on your equity. You want to invest something and want to get returns on that. So you work out in the prevailing situations and you project situations in future, how will your business function, whether you will continue getting same returns or not. And that's where what I've just said, the government machinery, the regulatory systems, they can help in making those uncertainties more certain, more visible to the budding entrepreneur, right? And then the financial institutions. Financial institutions today, the Reserve Bank Governor's statement is there today that banks should not extend too much of loan to infrastructure sector. Please go in detail. The maximum defaulters are about a dozen companies, not the small and medium entrepreneur. His collateral may be there, which can be taken away. But what happens to Vijay Mallya? Right? So a small and medium entrepreneur certainly has defaulted much less than anybody else. So the banks and financial institutions should come in for the financial risk.
In my opinion, there should be insurance for making the loss.
So maybe this is a very elaborate topic.
इतना टेंशन भी मतलब हनुमान जी में
The key questions what Rear Admiral Nathani raised and the kind of opportunities what Colonel Bana has been mentioning about, it somewhere also integrates well with the whole concept of institutional outcomes. In the conventional sense of our higher education system, we have certain thoughts about institutional outcomes just to provide degree-oriented students or employability. Now the institutional outcome is on employability, on skills and all. I would like to bring in Mr. Raj Mrityunjay at this moment as to what he thinks from his global understanding, that what are the emerging trends in institutional outcomes which probably will integrate these campaigns like Make in India or the entrepreneurship stuff what Colonel Bana has mentioned about, and how these things can be integrated into the central nervous system of our higher education system.
Okay. So, first of all, when we talk about Make in India, I want to give a parallel, which is Swachh Bharat. So, in the first time when the Swachh Bharat as a program was introduced, most people, you see what happened. They took a broom, they went to the road, and they started doing it. You saw all the politicians, that's what they were doing.
properly dressed.
Properly dressed,
Neat and clean dressed.
so they were all
No
doing that.
sweeper will clean that.
All photos, this is what happened. And then you see how it evolved, the concept evolved. Today you ask people Swachh Bharat, they'll say, kill corruption, kill your, clean your mind, clean toilets, clean this. So Swachh Bharat, within a period of 6 months, it has evolved from just cleaning the streets to actually there are several campaigns running across India about cleaning different things.
My God, give a big hand today.
Right? So,
Now you see the Delhi street.
Delhi is not included. So I'll give you a parallel in terms of Make in India. Why Make in India will be what should happen if Make in India should succeed? So, Make in India should actually go through a similar culture change across the mindset of everybody. See, today, Make in India is not about calling international companies coming here and saying, you buy manufacture here. That is required, no doubt about this. There's a fiscal deficit issue. We have to manufacture here. We have to do things which are necessary. But if Make in India as a concept has to be successful in India, there has to be larger revolution that has to happen across the board, which means we need to actually start to produce our students who are coming out should start think of solving problems of India. there has to be challenges in front of them that they can actually challenge themselves and solve problems of India. It should be Make in India, should become a culture. That is, I am here every day, I wake up, I want to think about the problems, I want to think about the solutions, whether it is biodegradable toilets, whether it is other issues, the larger ecosystem that we have to build for the country like this. And if there is a culturally, if that is developed at a younger age, and as they grow up, it is automatically going to become a revolution where we all look at solving problems. And Make in India is nothing but solving problems for India. And the problem, one of the problems we're solving is defense, by trying to actually build defense equipments in India. Other problem we're trying to solve is the import of electronics. There's a huge import of electronic goods that's happening. So we're trying to solve that by actually creating this. But I think we have much larger problems that we have to solve, like Garibi Hatao, poverty. We have to solve the environmental issues. We have to solve issues related to the hygiene. So there is a lot of things that have to happen, and I think as a culture, if we actually build it within the systems, within the institutions, as the students are growing up, not even universities, why not colleges, schools, why not from younger ages? And that will ultimately go on to become a culture within the country. And I think that is what is required in order to go to the next level. So I know you want to make a point. Let me actually finish my other point too, so that you can. So the other point, which is also important in order to make in India and be successful in making India, also I think is quality should become a paranoia in a country like this. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that we have is the chalega attitude. I think we have this in every field, and it's there is. I give an example the other day, and it's a very funny example, so I want to give it to you. So this is about a Japanese company getting an order to produce 1,000 devices, and they said that the device production should be 99.99%, and they gave the order to them, and they said, here is 1,000 devices, and they shipped 3 defect devices. And they said, because you said 99.99%, we didn't know how to meet it, so here are the 3 defect ones, which will make up the 99.99%. So when you think about quality, that is the type of paranoia that we need to have. If we are serious about making things in India, and the reason why we all go for an international product and not for Indian product, honestly, is because there is somewhere inherently we believe that quality is better than ours. We fail to accept it. It's not that we don't have, we had TVs that were manufactured in India 20 years ago. Those companies went to toss. They actually closed down. We actually started importing because we stopped believing that our quality is really better than the international. So we said import is better. So like this, as we look at the quality becoming a paranoia, and if we build that into the culture, into the system, and build the innovation, thinking about problem solving into the system, that is when the larger aspect of Make in India can be successful as an overall campaign. And I think we can take the initial few steps in that direction by encouraging that level of mindset within the institutions, by encouraging people to think innovative, by challenging them with social issues that are out there, and having them go and explore and come up with ideas how this nation can actually solve this problem. To me, that is how we in this group can actually contribute immensely towards the growth of the country.
Sir, your comment.
So when we improve quality, the cost increases very much in comparison with others.
No, sir, I don't think so. I'll come back and make comments.
First thing is, we don't have to try to answer all the questions. Because there are so many questions which are difficult to answer. And even if you are able to answer, it is difficult to make the questioner understand that you have answered well. He will never accept it. Like our friend will never accept it. There are 3 points which have emerged from this session which I see very lightly, and I requested for interjection because that has a relevance to our UP Technical University. The first point was that we still do not have technologies in DRDO or in defense forces which exist elsewhere. And the second point came that did the fellows who have done innovations so far in the past or in the earlier history and the recent past, did they have the formal degree? And the third point is said by the key person who has been invited to actually give the masala, the juice of the whole thing, is about the make in India. My request is that in India we have a mindset that if the neighbor has a problem, I have the solution. I become the advisor. But if I have the problem, the other will come and solve it. If I have a problem in my backyard, I will say he is not doing this because of the problem is there. But if the fellow in my nearby, he has a problem, then I am the best advisor to him. You should do this, you should do this. That paradigm shift has to happen. How it will happen, that is a suggestion. Suggestion is whatever the problem we have, for example DRDO. We have been reading, listening about DRDO so much. We have failed there, we have not met the targets, this thing, that thing. All those IITs, NITs which are doing projects for DRDO, they are never talked about. Actually DRDO's failure is because of their failure. But that's besides the point. The fact is we should talk to everybody. In the country of 125 crores, only 1 crore people, maybe that is the very high number I am telling, they know what are the problems of India. The rest 124 crore are even kept aloof because neither they understand English. No, if they don't understand English, they are not allowed to enter into innovation meetings. They can't even come and exchange ideas. When we go out, we have no connect with them because we again give them in English. This disconnect has to actually finish. Now, this should not be a discovery. This should be a common thing. If DRDO has a problem, let us discuss. Let us call all the workshop fellows in India. Let us do a conference at national level, regional level, and let us call all the workshop fellows and tell them we are not able to build this gear system. And maybe you will have thousands of the innovators fellows who will come. इसको ऐसा है जब वो जुगाड़ कर सकते हैं, जब वो क्या क्या नहीं कर सकते हैं, गाँव में कैसे कैसे होता है, सूखा पड़ता है फिर भी फसल अच्छी हो जाती है. तो दिस इज व्हाट आई वांटेड टू से. मेक इन इंडिया का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है वो सबसे अच्छा इसलिए है, नॉट बिकॉज वील बी एबल टू डू समथिंग, एटलीस्ट अ फीलिंग ऑफ इंडिया. You know, a feeling of Jan Gan Man has to come in this country. If every one of us has that feeling, make in India, it will be success. And dimensions are so much, the degrees are so much, innumerable. Only thing is we have to have that mindset. This is my advice.
Mr. Malik would like to come in. It has really become a
Just 2 minutes.
Sir, please.
First, on a personal front, I will thank Admiral Nathani. Sir, you have taken me back to 34 years. I was the founder member of WESI. Professor Paul Raj was my first guru. So I have been thankful to you, sir, that you have taken ecosystem. Ecosystem has to be sound. A DRDO alone cannot be done. Cannot be doing all those things. Although we have a lot of successes, but this is not a forum to defend DRDO or anything else. There are many issues, particularly the higher education and all that. I feel skill development, not only the Make in India, which is a very right approach, but design in India. That should be also focused. That should not be lost that we are just doing the TOTs and then we are doing only the productions. Now coming from TOT to the production, it's also a very highly skilled development. Are we focusing in the academia these things? We are now, everybody goes to Mark 1, Mark 2 systems, going in a spiral models. Whether the Mark 1 may be coming from the outside the country, are we going for the Mark 2 within the country with the innovation? Whether it's the crypto systems or whether it's the battlefield surveillance systems or whether it's the sensors, radars, all over, whether it's the platforms. Mark 1 can come, but Mark 2 should come from India. We have a lot of successes, whether it's the AXO sonar, which started in 81 by Dr. Paul Raj, or Rohini Revti radars of the LRD, or any battlefield or decision support system which we are doing for the army. But there is a fact that the ecosystem has to improve, and the academia is a major part of the ecosystem. We have a lot of institutions from where we interact. We may be not going to the many institutions which we are not representing because of many other reasons, but definitely we are always open. Our cell of extramural research always interact with the academia, and I am open. Any suggestion on any academia, whether it's a private institution or a government funded, we are always welcome to interact with them. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for such. I think in this connection itself, DRDO has graced on the Kargil Victory Day. We had done in this same building a defense research forum where this entire deliberation was taken at a great length, and the reverberations of it, there are works going on around that. to extend defense research across different genres of institutions. I would now like to bring in Colonel Sandeep Tyagi from the Indian Army to share his perspectives on this entire drive of making the Make in India to happen, and how Indian Army is planning to extend its various challenges and things to the higher education system.
Thank you, Raghav. And finally, I thought you had already forgotten about me. So before I actually share my views, just 2-3 things which are coming to my mind. Firstly, good evening to everybody. I am Colonel Sandeep Tyagi. I am a director of Air Defense, Missiles and Technology in the Perspective Planning Directorate at the Army Headquarters. And like Shah Rukh Khan said in one of the famous movies, my name is Khan and I am not a terrorist, so I am not from IIT. Today seems to be a day for IIT bashing, so I thank God for that. I am from Delhi University and not from IIT. Having said that, I think we are just about 2 hours behind schedule, so I will just speak for 5-7 minutes and try and focus onto the subject which possibly we all have a tendency to go at a tangent to. Everybody loves captive audiences, so I'll restrict myself to about 5 to 7 minutes. I thank you, Raghav, and the team Engineering Watch for having called a representative from the Indian Army to share our views on the subject, which is, I believe, making the Make in India happen, role and relevance of the academia. Is that what you would discuss? Right. So I will focus on that. Like the Admiral has a prepared script, I also have one. We were told that we were to speak about 10 odd minutes on this subject, but keeping the form factor in mind, I'll just share my random thoughts on that issue. Indian Army is involved with the academy by the in-service officers going to, as the Admiral himself is part of an IIT, going to these institutes and doing their MTechs and BTechs. Of course, these graduates joining the 3 services as such, as part of the forces, and the Army itself going to these institutes for getting some solutions to their issues. Problem seems to be an inappropriate word today, so I will restrict it to issues. So to address these issues, we have a thing called Army Technology Board, which is chaired by the GOC-INC RTRAC, which is the Army Training Command, which interacts with various technical institutes. We managed to get 32 projects successfully made through this board, and 28 odd are ongoing. Unfortunately, because possibly the scene is as such in the country, only the IITs were involved in this. Thank God Sir has left, otherwise he would have bashed me up.
He has not left.
Okay, he's coming back. Right. So no, this is a fact. You see, while we can go on and on for this particular thing, and like I said, I'm not from IIT. But finally, where do you go to if you need solutions? And by the way, he made a point about DRDO. I'm not here for it, but DRDO is not outsourced this project to any of the IITs as far as I know. And I've been interacting with DRDO past 2.5 years very closely in all projects. So that seems to be an inappropriate deduction which he has made anyway. So about 32 projects have been successfully seen through. Army is always keen to innovate from the very grassroots levels. While you're sitting at 18,000, 20,000, 22,000 feet and you want something done, you would rather do it yourself. You will not patent it later on and say that this is the innovation which we did and we came up with an innovative solution to something. But then you do it, right? So, things like counter IED equipment which in-service officers have made for themselves while in consultation with the academia, like I said, all the IITs in the... Recently, I was part of a discussion which was in Sikandragarh, the 17th Army Technology Board meeting. A lot of IIT directors were there and other higher technical institutions, including the Army Institute of Technology also, and institutes from Sikandragarh there. We had a lot of discussion on this particular issue, and we are changing a lot of policies, just to keep the talk focused to what I am here for, to involve the students, to involve the faculty. Somehow, I'm getting my mind always back to what the Vice Chancellor said. That the faculty is away most of the time, and somebody else also made this point over here. Where is he teaching? This is also something which I would take into the realm of learning and teaching. Like there was a set of students which was felicitated there by the Army Commander for having innovated on something to do with the T-72 tanks. Now these are IIT students who on their own time came up with a solution for something which was thrown as a challenge to them. So like I said, we are making policy changes, we are simplifying procedures, we are increasing finances so that for basic R&D, these students who have such great ideas, they can be involved and they can come up with these kind of solutions which we are looking for, and subsequently productionize them and take them to their logical end of inducting into the field army. That we are doing. So to that extent, we are involving the academia, we are involving the students and their mentors. We are trying to make it simple for them, facilitating them to visit our field formations, to visit our training establishments, to visit our institutes of excellence, to share ideas, to converse, to talk as in the beginning you started by saying that today we are here to interact and talk to each other. I guess everything is in place. Reams have been written. We have wise people. Everybody knows about everything, and as I said, there are no problems. There are only solutions, or there is no problem. Problem is of thinking that there is a problem. So while we are so wise, all of us, we actually don't need these seminars. We don't need. What we need is we need to converse. We need to talk to each other. This is what my opinion is. Of course, this is not the party line. So I may not be Chatham House rule apply today, at least as far as I'm concerned, because the written script is not being spoken. So therefore, this is my personal opinion that we really don't need no seminars. All of us know all these things. Make in India, reams have been written. You go onto the internet, you will find policy briefs. And this is presumption. This is presumptive of the fact that people in the government or policy makers are not wise enough. They don't know what is to be done. That is why we need to tell them what is to be done. This is exactly what we do. Not so. I guess everybody knows his job, and therefore, to presume that people don't. While we can suggest various ways and means, but I guess what is required really, as Raghav said, is to talk to each other, and we are doing that as far as Army is concerned. We are involving all sorts of academic institutes in giving us solutions. We are talking to them literally through headquarter integrated defense staff, through the Ministry of Defense, through Army Technology Board. We are doing all of that, and I guess this thing will be taken up in a much greater fashion. And students and all the academic institutes, I personally feel, not only talking about IIT, have many things to offer as far as Make in India is concerned. And without them, I don't think it is going to be a success, because R&D eventually will have to come through these institutes only. While DRDO has a place in it, a very place of eminence, I would say, but then again, I was again part of a seminar on indigenization where I met Mr. Ambar Dubey and Ashish Puntambekar. I wonder if you had read this paper written by Ashish Puntambekar on defense economic zones. It's a 100-page document. I don't think it is in the public domain, but I think it's sent to the Prime Minister. So, he talks about making these DEZs, of course the financial part and the economic viability is talked about, but he says that, how we can introduce the technical institutes over there to be doing only defense-related research and development and defense-related work. So possibly we also need to think about this, that the rest of the engineering course curriculum goes on as it is going on right now, but we need to establish institutes which are only dealing with defense research and development, defense-related issues, and who are innovating in these matters. Or possibly even in the current curriculum, we could introduce a semester or two for such like activities, and then thereafter can be taken up based on the kind of R&D done in a particular institute. It can be a technical demonstrator, as we call it in the DRDO, and subsequently taken up for production if found favor with the organizations. Thank you.
I will take just half a minute. Because I want to, there are many academic people who are sitting and saying that DRDO outsourcing. DRDO never outsource the projects to the products. We do S&T and the TD with the academia. And there is a mechanism. Colonel Tyagi, you mentioned about Army Technology Board. Recently, last year I think I chaired with General Madhov, we reviewed all the projects, and it's a good attempt. And there are specific 3 institutions which are working in the defense-related research. One is a DIIT Pune, which is a deemed university, a side-by institution of the Headquarter IDS, going to be AFTI, that called Millet, and I think Indu is coming in the very shortly. So these are the attempts which are going towards the this filling of these gaps. Thank you.
Sir, if I may just
one. I was the ANU Academic Council member for 2
Sorry,
of
please
the
put it
Medical
in
College. Both, I was a member of the Academic Council of JNU for the Mo Engineering College, Military Engineering College, Mo, and then also in Pune. And I was very happy that the type of practical work which the graduate engineers in the telecommunication area have done, it in both institutes. I was there for 2 years plus 2 years. So I told them that why can't you file a patent on this and commercialize it? You know, this I think 3 or 4 years back I told you in College of Engineering Telecommunication in Pune. I think this is a place where even the private engineering colleges also has get linked with even at least in the defense institute. First, the discipline also will come to our students. They will also have to have such a rigor in their learning and so on and so forth. But this type of innovative things which they are doing under the cover of defense also has to be patented and commercialized. It is essential. Thank you. At least these 2 institutes I have interacted as an academic council member. That's
But there is always a problem of publication when you work with the defense.
So I just want to kind of also make a point that while we are talking a lot of defense, I think there are every field you can actually do Make in India. I don't want to make it sound like this is only army or only DRDO. It has to be very intellectually challenging issues only we have to take up, right? There are simpler problems also we can solve in India. For example, Kenya. If you go to Kenya today, they all have solved the problem of transaction because of currency issues. You have to give like this much currency if you have to really buy some stuff. They solved the problem by putting something called M-Pesa. The last mile person who sits there, even selling you vegetable, will accept M-Pesa. We are trying to roll the same thing in India. It is not working. There is a reason for that. Because that M-Pesa, we are trying to take it from another country and push it into this country. We have to understand the ecosystem of this country and what is going to work here. So I think in every field we actually can come up with Make in India as a concept. I don't think it should be very intellectually challenging, very high-end thinking as much. We are contributing to Make in India our own little way. We are actually a product company which is making products out of India and catering to 16, 18 countries globally. So in our own way, we are a little bit, we are a software product. It is definitely not rocket science. But it's in its own way we are contributing, we are making our efforts to contribute to this. And these kind of seminars and sessions, what we're doing is really listening to all of you, taking the feedback and making sure that the products that we come back with is going to address a lot of these challenges that we are talking about here.
If I can, I'd like to make a point. I'd like to address what Colonel Tyagi said and circle back to what Professor Pindar said. You seem to have an objection to him saying that the IIT outsourcing is big. Is that correct?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
You seem to have an opinion about what he said, the Vice Chancellor Saab, about DRDO seemingly outsourcing. That seems to be the opinion that he has.
No, I said they don't outsource.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
They take them on board on science and technology demonstration kind of a project.
And you went on to say that there is no need for seminars like this if you're all wise people.
No, you see, you're taking 2 different things. No, hang on. Let me clarify this. When I said we don't need this seminar, means we already know these ideas are there. How many number of such seminars we've had. I'm saying the policy makers are aware of these things. That's what I said.
Therein lies the problem. What Admiral Saab said when he
But there is no problem these days, no?
No, the point I said. So what Admiral Saab said when he listed the organizations, all the individuals that they've been collaborating with, I noticed that they were all institutions of national eminence. Now the entire point is that some of us here represent the privileged few, and most probably the bulk of us here represent the underprivileged few. The bulk mass rather. And this, by the mass or the few, I mean the students. So while the IITs, the country, reserves the best of its talent, both at the teacher side as well as the student side, for the IITs and IIMs, it also seems to reserve the best of its challenges for those very boys and girls. Why wouldn't we, think of putting all these research challenges on some sort of crowdsourcing platform? I mentioned, like, from case study I read, Procter & Gamble has a crowdsourcing platform where it puts out challenges that it's been facing in its laboratories and puts a sort of a bounty on each of them. So if somebody comes up with an idea that leads to solution to one of those challenges and for probably a patent, that person, boy, girl, man, woman, whatever it is, would get some part of the proceeds maybe, or some sort of a fixed sum money. So that part, why can't DRDO think of putting a crowdsourcing platform out there which puts all these challenges for the students of regular universities, these large mass-based universities, for those students to look at. The other gentleman mentioned some European philosopher, Clausewitz, I believe, when he says the entire country goes to war. It's the entire country going to war, not just the top 5 or the elitist going to war. So while I understand at the defense forces level, we will only take what is best. But at the challenge level, there is no harm in putting it out there. I will also like to quote from an experience. I happened to have a conversation with a chemistry professor, a biochemistry professor actually, in the University of Mysore recently. I was commenting on his student strength. It was very good. And I was actually calculating per student spend, which was coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. It was somewhat skewed. So he was, in his defense, putting certain points across. He also mentioned an instance where a student who was maybe at 12th pass kid, who was not enrolled in the institution, had come across to them with a proposal for a research process, research idea. They knew he could not, they said that they knew it was not possible, but they allowed him access to the labs. They gave him a few months of lab time and let him discover for himself that it's not going to happen, that he can't do it this way. So just to again put it in context, that there is no harm in putting those. I understand, I'm sure Sir just said it, that there is some issues regarding the public domain and when it comes to defense challenges, but some of them I'm sure can make that cut where we can put them out there and let's see if we get a response back.
One good answer is yes, absolutely.
I'll just put 1 or 2 points, whatever you have covered. First of all, we have that 15-year Indian Naval Indigenization Plan on the web. It's on the CIA web. You can see what we want to indigenize, and anyone interested can get into it. The DRDO has a Naval Research Board. They're ready to sponsor projects of academic institutions. And that is not on a requirement base. It's not that I want a weapon, so you do it. It is on your original thinking. So if any of you, other than IITs, IIMs, whatever class you said, you want to do it, please put up a proposal in it that you want to do research in this, you'll get money for it. DRDO will fund it.
So I'll quote somebody else who mentioned something here.
You can go on the net and just get that.
Can I answer on behalf of DRDO? One of the gentlemen from one of the companies said, can you tell us the problem, we have the solution. But here you're telling us, give us a solution, give me the problem.
I thought it was not a DRDO seminar, so I was not ready. But let me answer. See, you can expect we are just 7,000 scientists in DRDO, and we also have a limited of the resources in terms of money, infrastructure, and the manpower to guide them and take up the research and absorb the work which academia does. So we have also limitations, and we have. Admiral mentioned we have an Army Research Board, we have an Air Force Research Board, we have Naval Research Board, and everything is available on our website. We have an ER and IPR scheme. You kindly sponsor your project. There will be a reply, there will be a discussions. If it is of interest to us, we will definitely involve. We are not in the, and because being a government funded organization, we can't say we won't take a project from this institution or that institution. We are welcome to from all institutions which are recognized by UGC and the other statutory bodies. Thank you.
I think he mentioned by sir that DRDO through these INMAS in Delhi and so many other institutes, our university has been beneficiary, and even joint patents also we have filed from Jamia, Dr. Asim Bhatnagar and so many people from DIPAS and this INMAS. So I think that it is not IIT centric.
No, sir, definitely.
मेरा एक इंटरजेक्शन है आपके निवेदन है. बहुत अच्छा बोला सिंह साहब, आपने बहुत बढ़िया बात बताई कि आपके रिसोर्स लिमिटेड है. मेरा एक सजेशन है और निवेदन भी है हमारे यहाँ यूपी टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी में 700 इंस्टीट्यूट हैं। हम आपको दान में देते हैं, हर DRDO लैब के साथ हम अटैच कर देते हैं 25-25, 30-30। आप उनकी मेंटरिंग करिए, आपको फ्री में मैन पावर मिलेगी। सारे इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियर, मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर, सिविल इंजीनियर फोकट में मिलेंगे, जो कहोगे वो करेंगे, आपसे पैसा नहीं मांगेंगे, बिकॉज दे आर ऑल प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट्स। बच्चों का उद्धार हो जाएगा। इस देश में समस्या यह है कि जो लोग रिसर्च कर रहे हैं वो पढ़ा नहीं रहे, और जो लोग पढ़ा रहे हैं वो रिसर्च नहीं कर रहे, और वो गुणगान ये कर रहे हैं कि क्यों नहीं रिसर्च कर रहे पढ़ाने वाले, और जो रिसर्च कर रहे हैं वो क्यों नहीं पढ़ा रहे। तो मेरा एक रिक्वेस्ट है, इनफैक्ट दिस इज अ रिक्वेस्ट टू द पॉलिसी मेकर्स ऑफ DRDO एंड द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, कि आप इस इंस्टीट्यूट गोद ले लो हमारे, और हम आपकी सेवा करेंगे। आपको ये करना है, हम कर देंगे सर।
हम भी अप्रिशिएट ऐसा करना चाहिए।
देखिए
देखिए गोद लेना और रिसर्च के लिए गोद लेंगे ना, पहले बीटेक आप कर लीजिए, then you can come.
सर मैं एक बात बताऊं आपको, मैं एक बात बताऊं आपको, हमारे पास 30,000 फैकल्टी है, और वो 30,000 फैकल्टी वो कर सकते हैं जो हमने उनसे करवाया ही नहीं। हम उनको एज एन एम्प्लॉय समझ रहे हैं, वो दे आर एसेट, वो गुण के खान है, ज्ञान के। तो अगर आपके साथ जुड़ जाएंगे, प्लस आपके जो साइंटिस्ट हैं उनका भी होराइजन खुलेगा कि भाई इन चीजों को ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं।
तो DRDO का नहीं हूं, but
कोई दिक्कत नहीं है,
the issue is that हम नेवी के हमारा और भी काम है
सर। आपने
लड़ाई लड़ना हमारा
सर, मैं
तो ये अलग चीज है जो हम एक्वायर करना चाह रहे हैं। We are trying to help out.
सर आपने मुझे एक बात,
मेंटर्स ना, इतने हमारे पास लोग नहीं है जो
नहीं, अभी आपने एक बात बताई कि आपने नेट पे डाला हुआ है कि प्रोजेक्ट लिखते हैं। समस्या इंडिया में ये है, यूनिवर्सिटीज में टीचर्स को प्रोजेक्ट लिखने नहीं आते। एग्जैक्टली। अब वो प्रोजेक्ट लिखने नहीं आते, इसलिए इसका मतलब नहीं है प्रोजेक्ट करने भी नहीं आते। काम करना आता है, प्रोजेक्ट लिखने नहीं आते। तो मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि आप गोद ले लो।
Please, Dr. One, let me say.
Yeah.
See, it is not God lena or not God lena. It is we are at least around 4,000 students per year during summer and the winter sessions. We impart them training in summer training in our institution. It is a great number, 4,000. And at that time, we don't see whether it is from IIT or the UPTU or any university.
To just give his closing remarks, a quick PSU perspective on this entire theme.
Thank you, Rano. It is nice that chance to speak something. Anyway, because you see the topic what he has taken, and it is a privilege to have his invitation. Every time he comes out with a new innovative idea. I would like to focus on the main issue what he is telling, creating result-oriented higher education. My intake on that, not only as General Manager HR last 7 years, embedded to the Airports Authority of India, though with my background as management training in the private sector, coming to the government side. Besides that, as a faculty to management institutes in the country and abroad, teaching is my hobby, and writing management books is my hobby. My interaction with the students, or my say on this is that when I am on the academic council of few universities, when we decide about the syllabus, we don't call any industry there. You see, we are creating a product, and you are going to the market. What result oriented he says the higher education to relate to what? To create a product, an engineer, a product. Let me invite the industrialist, the market available in the academics also, that this is the syllabus, this is what curriculum I am designing, whether it will sell in the market or not. A ready-made curriculum of BTech will not do anything. And everybody is calling the industrialist in the placement forums. Where is the first step? A student is told placement is this, industry is coming. Let the industry come at the beginning. And my say on that is, let us recognize that we have to market the product. I am very well with Moni. He says agriculture is one sector which has been negated like anything. And lot of potential is there. I have been telling in the earlier talks also. And with regard to my talks about IITs and all what you say, with due respect to Vice Chancellor, I have experience with IITs. I am a guest faculty for IIT Kharagpur, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, wherever I was posted. Or to IIMs also. I am not from IIT. I am not from IIM. I am not from any Singapore or Zurich Business School. I am a faculty there. I teach them. Whatever knowledge I have got. It is nobody's domain. But let us respect Make in India what project he is taking. It is already there. In the name of PIO, person with Indian origin. Who has given this Make in India abroad? IITs of this country. Why BHU has been named that, IIT Roorkee has been named that, Dhanbad has been named that. I am no advocate for IIT, but I have experienced, I have utilized their talent in giving them consultancy projects. I have seen them how KPMG is doing because of the education of IIT, how PwC I give contract, what he is doing there, what Youngstown RDSP is giving, where the product is, let us create center for excellence. And it's not an easy task. If I teach in the management, if I go somewhere, I was teaching nursing only for 10 years, Bombay. I was not with my designation as a faculty. I am a practicing manager, an HR manager. I am on 10-point scale. If I lose it, forget it, say goodbye. That is the faculty. Today the scenario has changed. Basically, with the due respect to Vice Chancellor here, he can do justice with my comments. You have created BCA. You have created BBA. What kind of joke you have made in the country? In early 90s, you created a BBA. I teach MBA, that's why my say is on that mode. You created BCA. Where is the market? Market never accepted.
I agree with you.
And I am telling you,
university is not offering.
that's what I am saying. You see, I am telling you one thing. I am Ahmedabad, never advocated for this 2 years full-time MBA when it started. The beginning was for practicing managers to fill up the knowledge gaps. Today I want an MBA student with lot of hunger, with practical experience, because I am teaching as a practicing manager my experiences. You read my books, I don't borrow for Harvard Business Review. I create my own case studies. Students are reading my case studies. I am a practicing manager, I worked at all international airports of the country. I have handled IR of 3,000 people. I am the ITA expert from Switzerland. I am an ICAO HR consultant from Montreal. Where we are lacking? The only thing, we are designing the courses BBA. What one? So there are 5 lakh managers required in this country, we require BBA. Think about it, a student of class 12 cannot understand the applications. MBA is not theoretical thing, MBA is practical based, role play. I take to IIM Ahmedabad student in the garden. Teach there. Anybody can read the book, net, everything is available. It is not a teaching pattern of yesterday's. In MBA education or for that matter MTech, it is all research oriented, it is all application based, it is all innovation, vision. Scrap this BBA, it is damaging us. Because the syllabus of BBA is entirely the same what is MBA. And that student is damaging my class. Instead of telling you, make application based studies, understand market requirements.
I request Dr.
You have got a MCA, scrap BCA, involve them in mathematics, physics, hardcore things.
Yeah.
Let them understand maturity to understand applications. So my take is that, I'm sorry, difference of opinion is there, but I respect and sir, one thing with respect, sir, don't say negate. Sometimes I have seen, I am taking ITMs also. I am heading the recruitment for the country and I got great vacuum. Please, sir, there was a challenge, the people say, Mr. Goyal, you cannot bring the IITs or IIMs and all. My recent result, I got TIS, I got FMS, I got IIT, I got every institute of the country for my organization. Let us not give the branding like that. And secondly, let us respect the Center for Excellence, which has given the name in India, Make in India in America. And I say, if I am an IITian, the only thing is sometimes the student comes, I interview him, his prestation comes through.
I would be forced to request Dr. Goyal to give up his closing marks. I think this session has been really mind-boggling, and from the floor, off the floor, from the audience, from the panel, it has been really wonderful. Without losing any further time, I will request Mr. Raj Mrityunjay to felicitate all our panelists on the dais, because I have got something very interesting in the next session out there, and the clock is still ticking 8:10. So I will request Dr. Goyal to present the stole to Rear Admiral Sandeep Nathani for his insightful comments and enlightenment which he has given this evening as to what Indian Navy is doing for Make in India to happen. It's a really proud moment for us to have him here. I would now request Colonel Sandeep Tyagi to please accept a token of thanks from this forum for his real insightful comments out here. I would now request Dr. Divakar Goyal to accept a scroll of thanks from Mr. Raj Mrityunjayappa. And last but not the least, we have got Colonel Naresh Bana, who is also heading the BVN Consultings. And I thank all the panelists for this evening for all their insightful comments.